Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live class. So thank you so much for joining in today, and you're welcome to put your comments in the live chat, and obviously I'll take those questions for you, and I'll try to answer them along the way. But I know some of you guys are brand new, so let me introduce myself to you. My name is Deepak, and I'm a tax code advisor. So I'm the founder of Tax Code Advisors. We are a very boutique advisory firm. So we help out individuals, small business owners, people who want to become a business owner, and we advise them on their tax matters. We help them plan things properly, have them become a little bit more efficient with their money, and help them reduce their risk, basically. That's what we do. And what I'm about to show you today is a sample of one of the activities that we do during our comprehensive tax planning. So our comprehensive tax planning is very interesting because this is something you probably have never seen it before. This is not something you do with your CPA or with your strategist or whoever else you might be working with, because it's about, roughly, I would say 6 to 10 hours long on average. And we do it over 3 to 4 days. And during this strategy sessions, we look at all aspects. We obviously definitely look at your tax aspects of things. How are you doing with your taxes? What can you do to reduce your taxes? But we also look at the other things. For example, how are you saving for your kids' education? How are you planning for your kids? I mean, not your kids, your medical. How are you planning for your retirement? How are you paying down on your debt? How are you using credit cards, and so forth. The idea is we look at everything that's going on financially in your life and trying to find ways to make you more efficient. So many times we can find you missing money in everything that you're already doing. Like, you don't necessarily have to go earn more or earn extra rate of return to be able to make more money. Really, most of us are actually overspending because we just don't know what we're doing. So anyhow, that's what we do on comprehensive tax planning. So if you would like to set that up, just send us a message, and we'll get back to you and get that set up for you. Now, what I'm going to show you today is how we calculate your financial freedom number. So what does that mean? So that means is once you have that number, then you can retire. You can choose to work or choose not to work. Working sort of becomes optional at that point. So obviously this number is unique for each person, but I'm going to pick an example of one of you. In today's case, that would be Roger. Roger has said, hey, look, I am a 40-year-old and I make $200,000 a year, which is excellent, Roger. If you're making $200,000 a year, that's just awesome. So I'm going to use his income to calculate his financial freedom number based on the information he has given to me. But like I said, you can set up a comprehensive call, or if you just want to talk about your financial freedom, you can just do a regular consulting call, and we can talk about that as well. That's just, you can do that on an hourly basis, and we can run all the numbers for you and explain to you how those things work. But you'll be surprised by looking at what I'm going to show you today. All right. Any questions? Will I share a recording? Yeah, this one is a very generic example. So now I'm not going to use Roger Social or anything like that. So I don't mind sharing that with you at all. So I'll post it online. You're welcome to look at it. Once again, just as a clarification, I'm not an investment advisor. So I don't tell you what to buy, you know, when to sell, when to buy, those kind of things. So I'm an educator. I'm a tax consultant. And again, anything I share today is also not a tax advice, because for that I need to know more information about you personally. But the idea is everything I share with you is really more educational purpose. So please look at it from that point of view only. Although I don't think we will be talking about any investment, but you never know. Somebody might ask a question, or I might ask an opinion, and I might answer that, and then I will be like, "Oh my God, what did I do?" All right. So I hope that explains it. So if you are okay with that, let's get started. So, like I said, what is the financial freedom number? It's a number that after that you can retire, basically. So, some people call it a retirement goal, some people call it financial freedom. I'll leave it up to you, whatever you call. So, Roger, you have $200,000 income, your age is 40. So, we're going to have to make some guesses because obviously I'm not going to ask you to speak on this call for your privacy reasons. So that's okay. I'm going to assume you're in a 30% tax bracket, but if obviously when we do a proper consultation, we'll be also reviewing your tax return as part of consultation, and we will have a little bit more accurate number. But I know even after taxes, you probably have some debt. Maybe you have some mortgage payments and car payments and all that kind of good stuff. So let's assume you're paying roughly about what $60,000 a year in all those in your mortgage, car payments, that kind of stuff. Maybe less, you know. And how much do you spend on your lifestyle? Should I say maybe another $60,000 on lifestyle? On food, travel, things that you like to do. So that means we have roughly 10% of your income available for savings. Now we're going to run some calculations and see if that is enough. Okay. So before we run the calculations, we need to understand how much of this $200,000 would you need in your retirement years? Is it all $200,000? Is it 150? Is it 100,000? What did that number look like? And most financial planners, the way they look at things is they say, look, in retirement years, you're probably going to need less because you have already paid down your debt. Remember this 30% of that debt, that is $60,000 a year. Hopefully, you don't have that in those years. Number two is hopefully you are in a lower tax bracket. So maybe you are in 12%, 15% tax bracket. So roughly 45% is automatically saved because you won't have that expense in future years. Lifestyle will probably would not change a whole lot, and honestly, you don't want to change it. But then we also need to add up some medical expenses. So maybe let's add up some medical expenses of 15%. So I would say, probably a good idea would be is to only reduce the debt and and then keep the other expenses there. So I'll assume that 15% will be a medical expense, 15% will be taxes, and lifestyle will continue to be at 30%. So the only thing I'm going to eliminate during your retirement years is this 30% of debt. Now, if you're not able to pay off that debt, then we need to worry about that as well. So what I'll say is that, look, I'll be happy if 70% of my current income is available to me in my retirement years. All right. So that number is $140,000. Now, but that number is as of today. That means I need to take 10% of my savings, which is $20,000, and grow it into $140,000. So you can imagine, just I want you to just imagine for a second that $20,000 needs to grow up to $140,000. Okay, in how many years? Well, you tell me. We need to figure out what the retirement age is. So you might say, you know what? I think I'm going to retire at age 65, for example. Okay. All right. And what would the inflation look like for next 25 years? So let's just give it some number because we have to pick a number. So I'll stick with 3% because I think that's a fair number. And you can see that means I need to produce almost double than what my requirements are. So I don't need 140, I almost need $300,000 a year because that's $300,000 when I'm age 65 will give me the same purchasing power as $140,000 today. So that would be my first step. So at least we know our number now. We know that in order to be financially free, I need to be able to generate this $300,000 per years of income. All right. So we can take our math further now. What I'm going to do is I have to make a guess how much of that income can I withdraw in my retirement years. So, and I'm going to show you some examples here just in a second. But let's just say you say, you know what, I think I can withdraw 2% every single year. And if that's the case, that means by the time I hit 65, I need to have at least $14.5 million in my portfolio, you know. And I bring this number up because many times I talk to clients, especially in this income group, which is between 150 to $200,000 income group. They say they are not worried about estate taxes. That's why they don't want to talk about anything else except whatever they're invested in, like stocks or high risk assets. But I thought that'd be kind of good idea to know your financial freedom number, because that has a lot to do with taxes and estate planning. So keep that in mind. Okay, and I'm not going to go deep into it in this video because we have discussed that in past, and there are some videos on my channel, and we regularly talk about that on webinars, seminars, anyway. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, then during consultation, just make sure you ask me. Although if you're going through comprehensive consult, then we're going to go through the entire module anyway with you. All right. Now, what if I change this number to 3%? What happens now? you know you can see the number changes quite a bit. What about 4%? Okay, number changes again. So what is happening here? So I'm going to show you in a calculator here. So I'm going to take this number 7328223. Well, I think I got one too many. 7328223. Okay, times 0.04. And what do I get? $293,000 a year. The question we still have to figure out is, can I will this income be sustained till for the end of lifetime? We don't know that answer just yet. All I'm saying is that figure out how much can you withdraw. So when I talk to clients, oftentimes they say that that number is sometimes 3%, sometimes 4%, sometimes 5%. So let's just say if I make it 5%, for example, let's say if you can withdraw 5%, this is how the number looks like. Okay. Now we need to calculate on this savings, how much can we safely earn? So why don't you guys tell me what I'll put whatever number you tell me. 5%, 10%, 20%. 5%? Okay. I can start with 5%, no problem. All right. So if I say, if I'm earning only 5%, that is just not good, because that means I will only have 1.3 million, but I needed actually $5.8 million. You need to earn a little bit more. How about 10%? We are still nowhere close to this 2.7 million. So that still sucks. So either we need to earn more or we need to withdraw less. So let's say we withdraw 4%. How does that look like now? Well, if we withdraw 4%, the numbers still don't add up. How about 3%? Okay, 9 million. So it's still, we are way off. The numbers are still not matching up. Um, I'm not going to be able to survive this. We can see the numbers are just not they're not matching up here. Okay, let's stick with this for a second, and let's just say our mortality age is 90, for example. I know many people like to use 80, but I would rather play safe, because most people these days are living longer, and there's a very high likelihood that you will live to age 90 rather than 80. And during retirement age, let's say you earn 5%. Okay. We can see that this math just does not work out. Okay, it just sucks. Like if somebody who is age 40 making $200,000, saving 20%, wants at least 70% of that income available in retirement, which is $140,000, with a 3% inflation would need about $300,000. They would not have that kind of fund. They are in a deficit of almost $12 million. So you can see that just sucks. We need to get this number to turn positive. Okay. So I give you an example. What if we can earn 20% return on our earnings? All of a sudden, the number looks good. What about 15%? Numbers start to look, not bad at this point. So if you can maintain this and you can earn 15% return, then you'll be okay. For example, what had given 15% returns? Um, on average, uh, uh, NASDAQ has given more than 15%. However, would they give 15% in future? Nobody knows, but it has in the past. Berkshire Hathaway has given 15%. And I'm talking about a business that has multiple business, like well diversified. Now there are individual stocks that has given more than 15%, but I'm ignoring those for these calculations. I'm talking about a well diversified portfolio. But look, at the end of the day, we know that the assumptions here are just not reasonable. We able to earn 15% return, for few people will be possible, but for majority of us this will be a very difficult number. Similarly, 5% return in retirement years, actually once again possible for some people, but for majority of us this will be difficult. So I think we should become a little bit more reasonable in our assumptions. I think 8% would be a very good number, and 4% would be a very good number. The only problem is when I change these two numbers, I create a deficit of almost $7 million. So we can see that's just not good. I'm not going to be able to pay for my expenses in retirement years. So what can we do? Obviously, and we kind of already decided on all of this. But what we can do is one of the simplest strategies, maybe we work a little bit later, maybe we work till, let's say, 72, for example. So now if we just make that one change so that those 7 years in our retirement years can make a huge impact on our legacy. So you can see that's a big one. So sometimes I see clients who are planning on taking retirements too early, and they don't realize that how that can be a big problem for them. So that's one thing you might want to look at. Another thing we can do is, let's say maybe we retire at 69, and now we're still a little bit of trouble, but can we potentially perhaps reduce our taxes a little bit? And I already also reduce our debt a little bit as well. So see, if I reduce my taxes to 20% and reduce my debt to 20%, that can increase my savings over the lifetime to almost 30%. Now I'm really, really good. Now I'm making pretty good money. Most people are actually spending a lot of their hard-earned dollars in taxes and debt. So when people come to me for consulting, these are the two areas I like to focus on quite a bit, so that way they can build a legacy, they can build a generational wealth. So, so I think at this point you have a clear understanding as to what kind of things I do to help you calculate your financial freedom number and what kind of things you can do to have a major impact on your retirement. So, like I said earlier, a lot of people come to me when they're in their 40s and 50s, but I wish people, younger people will come sooner, because if they understand what I'm talking about, they can actually have the biggest impact on their financial freedom because they have more time, very simply put. When clients come to me, I like to focus on taxes, and I like to focus on debt, and I like to focus on showing them how the numbers will look by making certain changes in the way you manage your finances. So that's what I do on my consultation calls. So if you're interested in your financial freedom and you want to learn more about that, please just set up a consultation appointment, and I'll be happy to discuss in more details with you. So, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take those at this point. You're welcome to put that in the chat window, um, and then we'll go from there. Hello, Deepak. Can you talk about your monthly Zoom calls that you mentioned earlier? Yeah, absolutely. So, what happens is people have two ways that they work with me. One is one on one consultation that can be just an hourly basis. So, if you want to talk about your education planning, your insurance planning, your retirement planning, your tax planning, you want me to run some numbers, or maybe you have a capital gain problem, or you want to learn about setting up a business structure, those kind of things, then you set up a simple consultation appointment for an hour and we discuss that particular subject matter. And the other way I do it is through comprehensive calls. In these comprehensive calls, obviously you talk about the things that you are looking for solutions, but then I ask you a lot of questions about your debt, about your taxes, about your real estate, about your business, about your kids, about your 401ks, all that kind of good stuff. And I try to come up with things that you can do to make you more efficient. These calls are longer, probably take 6 to 10 hours long over 3 to 4 days. So it takes quite a bit of time. And obviously, I review your prior tax returns as well. But after those comprehensive calls, I like to do group Zoom calls on monthly basis. And in those group Zoom calls, I kind of focus on certain subjects to kind of enhance your financial education. So those calls are absolutely free. So anybody who becomes a client and you do comprehensive consult, so those calls are absolutely free for the entire year. So that's how that works. I hope that helps. Okay, what's the next question here? Okay, if I book a consultation call, would you also tell me how I can reduce my taxes or debt? Yes, so it depends. So, for example, during our conversation, if I can spot, like, okay, this is an opportunity, then I'll bring it to your attention. But like I said, this, if it's a hourly consultation call, then there's only so much we can do. In comprehensive, absolutely, yeah, all of that will be covered. But in hourly, we are restricted by time, so whatever we can cover in 1 hour, I'll be happy to share it with you. I would not hold back. And the one way you can also think of it this way is, maybe you start with consultation call, you understand what this number looks like, you understand uh, how I work, and then you can extend it into a comprehensive call. That's okay as well. Or maybe you just need, instead of 1 hour, maybe you need 2 hours. You can do it that way as well. So I'm very flexible. It's up to you how far you want to take it, and what's going on. Maybe somebody is just a W-2 and they don't really have anything else going on. For them, it'll be rather straightforward. But somebody who has a couple of properties, a business, 401k, for them it might take a while. So it's kind of depends upon each situation. So I hope that helps. Deepak, you didn't really talk about insurance, but you said you can also do insurance planning. How do you do that? Okay, yeah. So I can talk about that for a second. So I don't really focus on insurance for purpose of retirement planning. I focus on insurance for different reasons. I like to talk on insurance is purely A, for insurance purpose, like whenever you have a higher risk of losing that income. So for example, when we did this math, we're counting on you saving 30% of your income every year for the next 30 years. So if you don't do that, that's going to have a major impact, right? Your family would lose out on this money right here. So that's the problem I'm dealing with. So for to cover that, we should have some sort of term insurance. So that's what. Estate planning. That's another good reason I use it for. to you. Okay, let's take the next question. Deepak, thank you for sharing this information with us. Very valuable. Can you please tell me who is an ideal client for you? Um, Okay. So, I mean, I work with all kind of clients. I mean, I have kids who are in college who come for help, and people who are retired come from help. Business owners, high W-2 earners, regular W-2 earners, people who have real estate. So all kind of thing, you know. So there's no, it's not like I focus only on crypto or I only focus on real estate. Numbers are numbers. So, you know, if you are doing some sort of transaction, then I think you need an advisor on your team who can be unbiased and just kind of show you what it makes sense. I mean, for example, I have clients who come to me, "Hey, Deepak, I'm switching a job. Can you please take a look at these two different jobs and maybe tell me if I'm missing something?" So oftentimes we find why it might be beneficial to not accept a new job. You know, so interesting example. People sometimes come about how do we reduce debt. So we're not a debt service. I just give you advice on simple things you can do to reduce debt without having to pay a third party for tons of money. So like I said, so pretty much we work with all kind of clients. So no, nothing. I cannot tell you that okay, we only work with this kind of customer. Well, I guess I can tell you who I don't work with. I mean, I don't have any billionaire clients, you know. So if you have a really large portfolio, you have a lot of stuff going on, then maybe I'm not the right guy for you. But if you are, you know, an average American, then I think I can be of enormous value to you. Okay, let's take the next question now. Deepak, what do you think we should save to have a good retirement? That's a loaded question. So, like I said, that's why you run these calculations. That's why you run these numbers. So you know, for example, somebody living in Mexico, maybe for them the number is $50,000. You know, so let's just say if I change it to $50,000, for example, and that let's just say that's what their income is, and they need exactly $50,000 in Mexico, then you can see it's actually not bad. You know, they be just fine. Uh, you know, uh, for them, they don't have to change a lot of things. But I can tell you this much: a basic rule of thumb, if that's what your question is. Although in my personal opinion, I think everybody should really know their number based on their each lifestyle and each tax situation and debt, because these are big variables. But personally speaking, I think if you can save 30% of your income on a regular basis and invest into something that can generate 8 to 10%, and you're earning more than $50,000, then I think as a general rule of thumb, I think you'll be just fine if that's your lifestyle. Okay. So I'm glad you asked that question. But again, um, that may not be enough. So uh, maybe your needs will change. Maybe today you think that you're happy with that because that's what it is, but maybe 5 years from now you might be in a different situation. So I think we should all kind of review this math. I would say at least every 2 to 3 years, if not every year. And imagine if you do this every single year. Let's say you do it sometime in last quarter, and then next year you set your goals based on what you kind of learn in the call. And then next quarter you review it again. But now you have real math to prove if you are, really making a progress or not. So that's how I do it. Okay, do I work on weekends? Yeah, absolutely. I work evenings, weekends, so I'm available. All calls over the Zoom. Do I need to send you any documents? You don't have to. You can, just tell me the numbers. That's okay. But if you want me to review your tax returns, I'll be happy to do that. Obviously, if you're only doing it an hourly consult, then I can quickly glance at your tax return. I cannot really review it per se. But if you're doing comprehensive, then definitely I spend good 2 3 hours reviewing the tax return and make sure everything looks good on that from a tax point, and if there are any opportunities there. Okay, guys, I got to run because I have another appointment coming up. But if you have more questions, just send me a WhatsApp, or you know how to get hold of me. If you want to set up an appointment, just go to taxcodeadvisors.com and just set up a consultation appointment with me, and and then we'll talk on one-on-one. All right. Once again, guys, thank you so much for joining today's call. If you have other friends, family members who wants to connect with me, please share my number with them. I'll appreciate it very, very much. Once again, thank you so much. I'll talk to you guys soon.